Hi, this is Elizabeth and Elton Brewington, and we are with Discover Brightside. And this is a very important event that we do for 8 years, and it is a horror story, as Gwen put it, and it is a matter of service, as Colonel Donna put it. And now we are here with an author who actually documented in her book Silver Lining. So over to you, Samantha. Please tell us all about it.
Hi, thank you for having me. I just want to thank Gwen for shedding such insight on being on the therapist's end of working with civilians after 9/11. And then I also want to thank Colonel Donna for all of her service and the antidote about the outpouring of support after reaching out to the reserves and how those individuals just wanted to do whatever they could to help just was such an incredible story. So thank you both. So my experience was I had just graduated college. I was in my very, very early 20s. I had moved to New York. I was fortunate enough to work in World Trade Center 7 for Citigroup Asset Management. On the morning of 9/11, I was actually in the gym on the 47th floor of World Trade Center 7. We had these gorgeous floor to ceiling glass windows where I had this untainted view of lower Manhattan. The towers were right there, the Henry Hudson River, and I could see out in every single direction. When the planes hit, I was actually in the women's locker room getting ready to go down to work. And I think, as Colonel Donna put it, it felt like an earthquake was happening in the building that I was in. An earthquake, a bomb, I couldn't make sense out of it. It was this ringing, high-pitched sound that just made me grab a hold of both of my ears and almost like keel over. I ran out, and the first thing I saw was it looked like confetti, and I couldn't wrap my mind around what I was seeing. I thought it was a celebration because we were in Manhattan. Everything was new and exciting, and we were in the World Trade Center. And I thought there was random confetti in the sky at 8:45 on a Tuesday morning. Then I started seeing people fall out of the building. They were so close, they were sailing right past me. I locked eyes with one gentleman. And after that, I grabbed my things. I ran to the elevator. I ran to the floor I was working on. I was working on the 36th floor. The floor was deserted, with the exception of my manager, who looked at me and told me to get out of the building as quickly as I could. I ran into the elevator. The doors closed behind me. The elevator started going downward and then it stopped. There was a few minutes where I was trapped in the elevator and I was trying desperately to get out. I couldn't until eventually the elevator started moving again and I got out. I think it was the 31st floor of the building. I ran out of the elevator and I started running down the staircase to the lobby. I was in my high-heeled pumps at the time and running down the stairs as fast as I could until I realized that my gym shoes were actually in my gym bag that I was carrying. So I dropped down, I put my sneakers on, I continued running all the way down, thinking that once I reached the lobby, I would be able to get out of the building and be safe. However, when I reached the lobby, there were hundreds of people standing, crowding around the lobby, and I realized that we were all trapped because the entrance of our building actually shared an entrance with the towers. All of the debris, all of the rubble was falling over our heads onto our roof. There was nowhere for us to go. Outside the windows, we couldn't see through the smoke and the ash and everything that was falling. We just kept hearing these sickening metallic noises falling over our heads, crashing into the roof above us. Um, when the second plane hit, we thought that the tower fell onto our roof. We thought we were going to be buried alive. It was just mass chaos. It was complete panic. Finally, a few minutes after that, a security guard in our building realized that there was a loading dock in the basement of World Trade Center 7, and he safely evacuated us out of the building through the loading dock that faced the other direction. So as soon as we got out, we just stood there and we saw the towers burning, this inferno of smoke and ash, and it was just boggling. It was bonkers. It was like nothing anyone of us had ever seen before. Um, and a fireman came over and he told us that we had to move and that we had to travel uptown because where we were standing was not safe at the time. So we started moving, we started walking. Um, and then I started hearing screams saying, "Oh my God, run, the tower is falling." And I turned around and I see the tower imploding in on itself. And I see just this great like wave of ash and the tsunami surging down the street towards us. We all had to run. At one point, I actually got caught in it. I had to breathe in the debris, the ash, whatever else was in the air. I couldn't see. My eyes were just filled with smoke. I just kept running as fast and as far as I could until finally I broke out of the cloud, and I ran and I ran. Um, and just, I was in complete disbelief. I was in complete shock. I found a group of my colleagues that I had just met a few months before because I had just started working at this company. So I only knew a handful of people, and we were just surging forward in this like zombie apocalypse. It was just horrific. I think Colonel Donna mentioned about everything being gridlocked and everything coming to a standstill. And when I think about that day and those moments of just walking uptown, I passed by taxi cabs, cars, all the traffic was gridlocked. People had just pulled over on the side of the street. They were blaring their radios and trying to make sense out of what happened, trying to figure out what caused this. Was this an accident? Was it an act of terrorism? Nobody knew. And I passed people who were bleeding. I passed people who were injured, people being carried, people sobbing uncontrollably because of either what they had witnessed or people they had lost around them. Um, it was just a day that is forever going to be ingrained in my mind. After that, I started having survivor's guilt. I stopped sleeping. Insomnia is actually one of the biggest, or was one of the biggest indicators of PTSD after 9/11. I had anxiety, depression. If I was in a confined space like a subway car, I felt like somebody was going to walk into the same car that I was in and detonate a bomb, and I was going to die instantaneously. I was just in a state of acute trauma. I couldn't continue on with how I was. So I ended up seeking the support of mental health therapists, and I found many therapists who helped me in many ways. And after going through that process, I decided that I wanted to become a therapist and I wanted to help other people. So I went back to school. I went to Hunter College, got my MSW. And then after that, I moved back to Florida, where I'm originally from, and I worked with Holocaust survivors for a decade, and I specialized in trauma-informed care. I also started developing a chronic health condition, hearing loss, as well as PTSD. But now I own a group mental health practice. We have 20 therapists on our team. We specialize in trauma-informed care, and I just published a book called Silver Linings from Surviving to Thriving after 9/11.
Good job.
Wow. My goodness, all three of you have really stirred up thoughts. And the fact that this is such a vivid memory after 24 years that you can account for it, I really thank you. And I really encourage everybody to get the book and learn more about Samantha's services as well. And as I said before, we've got to end this early. Normally we do have extra time, but I want to bring Joanne up next. And I'm going to stop recording. If you're watching and if Samantha's story resonated with you, make sure you write us a comment and tell us your story. 9/11 should never be forgotten, and none of, as Gwen says, the horror, the pain, we really want to think about the families and the loss, what it has done to this country. So I want you to write us a comment, tell us what you think, and it is very important that we continue to do this every year. So the only way you can support us is by commenting, subscribing, and keeping us going. So thank you for that.